Okay, so I hope I'm not burying the lead, but I want to remind you of how this is how CNN covers war and foreign policy. They're always for war because they're funded by the military-industrial complex. So they're always repeating talking points from the CIA, the State Department, and the Pentagon. And watch this. So during the false chemical attacks in Syria, which we debunked, they were bogus. CNN sent somebody, this reporter there, who they don't tell you is the granddaughter of the former head of Syria. No kidding. They don't even tell you that. And watch her. Watch what she says.
And there's definitely something that stings.
She thinks that bag has chemical weapons on it, and she said, well, let me sniff it. Oh, yeah, I'm going to die. That's it. They got me. Well, it smells like a false flag. So that's their big... She literally did that. I'm not making that up. That's not a comedy sketch. That's not Saturday Night Live. That's a CNN reporter going over to report on a chemical attack, sniffing a backpack, going, oh, yeah, that's something that stinks. So now, go ahead.
Guy wiped his ass with all that stuff. It stings.
So now Tucker Carlson is coming out against the war in Ukraine that the United States is pushing and ramping up, and all the media is saber-rattling for. It's crazy. And I told you what the situation in Ukraine is that the United States has been aggressive towards Russia ever since Germany got back together. We promised we wouldn't advance NATO towards Russia. We've broken that promise numerous times. And now with Ukraine, we overthrew their government. The United States helped overthrow them, installed neo-Nazis. That's who we're in bed with in Ukraine. Neo-Nazis. I'm not making this up. And now they want us to somehow defend the neo-Nazi people against Russia. And, well, here's what Tucker Carlson has to say about it.
Good evening and welcome to Tucker Carlson Tonight. When permanent Washington pushes for war with Russia, who benefits? You don't ask that question enough. The United States certainly doesn't benefit. That's obvious to anyone who thinks about it for a second. It's so glaringly obvious, in fact, that the people pushing this war immediately denounce you as a traitor if you point that out. They're betraying our country's interest, but somehow you're the one who's disloyal. Ukraine's borders are sacred. Our borders are racist. Shut up, Putin stooge. But wait a second. Why is it disloyal to side with Russia, but loyal to side with Ukraine? They're both foreign countries that don't care anything about the United States. Kind of strange. It's all an absurd performance, but it's all they've got in the end. The fact is, Ukraine is strategically irrelevant to the United States. No rational person could defend a war with Russia over Ukraine. Nobody thinks a war like that would make America safer or stronger or more prosperous. If you take a look at our economy recently, dangerous levels of inflation, a workforce in disarray, wildly chaotic swings in financial markets, in case you haven't noticed. Will joining a conflict in Eastern Europe fix any of that? Come on, of course not. It'll make it worse. If the neocons aren't restrained, and soon, Americans are going to be a lot poorer. So why are they doing this? That's a complex question. Hubris, stupidity, the damaged psychological makeup of our leaders, massive lobbying campaigns by Ukrainian politicians and American defense contractors. All of those factors play a role in this. No tragedy has a single cause. But what's not at all complicated is who benefits from our conflict with Russia. China benefits, period. The Chinese government is the only certain winner here. We can give you many examples to illustrate this, but consider the latest economic sanctions the White House has proposed against Russia. The Biden administration may use something called the Foreign Direct Product Rule to cut off Russia's supply of semiconductors made with American technology. This would, in the hopeful assessment of the Washington Post, quote, potentially deprive Russian citizens of some smartphones, tablets, and video game consoles. So depriving Russian citizens is good, we're told, because Russian citizens are bad. Okay. But what are the long-term effects on us? Russians are still going to have smartphones. They'll just get their components somewhere else, meaning from China. The Chinese have already pledged to help, and they have every incentive to make good on that promise. In other words, the Biden administration will succeed in continuing to drive our two main global rivals closer to a permanent alliance with one another. How does that...
So that seems pretty reasonable. Right? What Tucker's saying, it all seems pretty reasonable, and he's anti-imperialism on this case, and he's anti-war, and he's pro-peace. So Tucker's getting it right, while the rest of the media gets it wrong, and saber rattles for a war with a nuclear power. That's happening. So for whatever reason, and I've said this before, Tucker Carlson has many odious opinions on many things, but he gets this right. And so when someone gets it right, you have to point it out. And so that's the irony is that everybody says Tucker Carlson's the worst thing in the world, yet he consistently gets foreign policy way better than everybody else in mainstream news. Isn't that interesting?
I heard the term corrosive effect on society multiple times.
That he has? Yeah, I guess
the guy that wants us not to go to war, that's the corrosive effect.
That's right. The guy who doesn't now, again, I'll tell it, Tucker Carlson thinks I have many odious views. I think he has many odious views. But we agree on some things, and this is one of them. And, well, watch how... So this is what Jim Acosta... So Jim Acosta says, in case you missed it, my hold on segment, he's tweeting out a video I'm going to show you in a second, on Comrade Tucker from Democracy in Peril. He's not just endangering democracy by serving as a mouthpiece for Russia and mainstreaming authoritarianism. He's putting lives in peril with his disinformation on COVID.
Well, Jimmy, you see, democracy is not for things like if most of the people want Joe Rogan not to be censored.
That's right.
It's for Ukraine and neo-Nazi people being elected.
So here's the segment that Jim Acosta did on what I just showed you that Tucker Carlson said. Watch this.
If you've seen my comments about Fox News in the past, you are well aware of the nickname I've given the network. It's the Bullshit Factory. But maybe it should be the Bolshevik Factory.
He digs swearing.
He loves it. Look at how edgy he is.
Oh, look at him.
I thought that was what Donald Trump did, and everybody wagged their finger at it because he was lowering the culture and he was lowering the standards and all that. But he just goes on and just swears right on national television.
CNN can say that?
Well, because they're on cable. They're not on broadcast TV, so they can swear. So
what a rebel,
cool.
Jim Acosta.
What a rebel. He's
I hope he says dick next.
Yeah. So that's his big look how edgy Jim Acosta is. He said bullshit.
In a tie.
In a tie. While spreading propaganda for the
Wait, Jimmy, look at the burning intelligence in his eyes on that freeze frame.
Yes, I know, right? Look at it. So let's watch.
As in the Bolsheviks, the communists who helped form the Soviet Union. Judging by how the network allows one of...
So now he's just calling everybody at Fox News. He's just red baiting all of them. They're all communists and traitors to our country. That's what he's saying. This is a real news broadcast. I'm not making this up. Here we go.
Most popular hosts to spew pro-Putin propaganda.
Why is it disloyal to side with Russia, but loyal to side with Ukraine? They're both foreign countries that don't care anything about the United States. Kind of strange. Imagine if Mexico fell under the direct military control of China. We would see that as a threat, of course. There'd be no reason for that. Well, that's how Russia views NATO control of Ukraine, and why wouldn't they? We don't get anything out of pushing Ukraine into NATO, so why are we doing this?
Now, Jim Acosta, those are two very good questions that Tucker Carlson asked. Jim Acosta is not going to answer them. He's just going to go on and to a red baiting, the most craziest McCarthy red baiting smearing I've ever seen. Here we go.
Hear how Comrade Tucker sounds when he's translated into Russian, as in Russian state television. There it is right there. They're eating it up like a bowl full of borscht.
So Jim Acosta doesn't address any of Tucker Carlson's points. He just does guilt by association because in Russia, they're covering Tucker Carlson. In Russia, their news agency is also covering what Tucker Carlson's saying. So that's automatically, it doesn't matter what he's saying or what they're saying or what questions Tucker's asking or them or not at all. Just, hey, look, Russia bad, Tucker's face is there, and that's all it takes.
Hey, why don't you have some more blintzes, Comrade Tuckerinsky?
So both Tucker's questions are absolutely fair questions that anyone with half a brain would ask, right? So you can guess Jim Acosta's answer to Tucker. Well, if you guessed it was something eloquent and thought-provoking, you were wrong. If you guessed he doesn't even address the important points and says something that would be dumb as shit even by 50 standards, you win today's Jim Acosta challenge. After you hear what... So listen to what he said. Look at that.
They tell sounds when he's translated into Russian, as in Russian state television. There it is right there. They're eating it up like a bowl full of borscht.
Clever.
Actually, you should hear what Jim Acosta just said, but in black and white, and with him sitting next to Roy Cohn and Senator McCarthy at a 50s commie hunt hearing. Because that's what that sounds like. He should be filmed in black and white right now next to Roy Cohn and Senator McCarthy, because this is fucking insane. This is what passes for news commentary on CNN. And they want to censor Joe Rogan.
pointing to what he's been saying for months. Apparently, same goes for the reaction for viewers of Trump state TV, and that is Fox, of course. Democratic Congressman Tom Malinowski says his office is now getting calls from folks who say they watch Tucker Carlson and are upset that we're not siding with Russia. Tucker has even laughed at the idea that the U.S. would.
So I don't have this set up correctly, but I just want to let you know that Tom Malinowski, that he just pointed to, that Democratic congressman, first of all, oh no, Republican viewers are turning anti-war and they're writing their congressman. That's, I guess, a shocker. And Congressman Malinsky, he doesn't have time for this bullshit or Republican commies. You know why? Because he's busy doing the people's business. And what is the people's business? Well, right now he's being investigated by the House Ethics Committee because he failed to report his insider stock trades. That's the kind of good guy he's referencing right now. You know, they get 45 days to report their insider stock trades to make it easier to get away with covering up their insider trades. Do you know that? That's true. Well, Tom couldn't be bothered to even follow that corrupt loophole. And so House ethics investigators voted 5-1 to refer their findings to the House Ethics Committee, which I'm guessing will go nowhere since we now have to focus on starting World War III. So just so you know, that guy he just referenced, complete criminal. Okay.
Defend Ukraine militarily.
A friend just sent this tweet, quote, "Having lost in Afghanistan, the graveyard of empires, the regime's next military adventure, invading Russia in winter." Perfect.
Yeah, I'm not sure why he's laughing.
Well, I am, Jim, but we know you're not sure. You're a very special boy, and even though you may learn and comprehend information more slowly than other kids your age, it doesn't make you any less valuable as a human being, Jim Acosta. But as journalists go, you're an absolute worthless piece of shit. Okay.
It should be noted that lawmakers from both parties, as well as foreign policy experts, have long said that Putin's chief objective is to reconstitute the Soviet Union.
Yes. It should be noted. It should be noted that lawmakers from both parties are Pentagon dick puppets who will say absolutely any nonsense to keep us in perpetual war. So Jim Costa has a good point there.
On far-fetched, last December, Reuters reported that Russian state TV had aired some provocative comments from the autocrat, a documentary, Russia New History. In that documentary, Putin lamented the collapse of the Soviet Union, saying it was a disintegration of historical Russia under the name of the Soviet Union. We turned into a completely different country, and what had been built up over 1,000 years was largely lost. Yet for months, during the escalating tensions between Russia and Ukraine, Tucker has been questioning why the U.S. doesn't side with the Kremlin.
Well, why would we take Ukraine's side and not Russia's side? It's a sincere question. If you're looking from the American perspective, no, but why? I mean, who's got the energy reserves? Who's the major player in world affairs? Who's the potential counterbalance against China, which is the actual threat? Why would we take Ukraine's side? Why wouldn't we on Russia's side? I'm totally confused.
Well, clearly, Ukraine is a democracy. Russia is an authoritarian regime that is seeking to impose its will.
Ukraine is run by neo-Nazis. Now, you think Jim Acosta is going to acknowledge that? Let's watch.
Upon a validly elected democracy in Ukraine, and we're on the side of democracy.
Yeah, I mean, I'm guessing for democracy in other countries, I guess.
That was Ohio Republican Congressman Mike Turner taking Tucker to school.
Oh.
So Jim Acosta, who doesn't get 1/11 of the ratings that Joe Rogan gets, who gets probably worse ratings than this show, Jim Acosta is now taking on a guy who's way more successful than him, Tucker Carlson, as Tucker Carlson is on the right side of the issue. And Jim Acosta, because he's funded by the military-industrial complex, is on the wrong side of the issue and pushing war and disinformation and lies, because that's what CNN and Jim Acosta does. And Jim Acosta will never go on a show. He'll never go on Joe Rogan's show. He'll never come on this show. He'll never go on a show. The guy's a fucking lightweight liar. And that's what you get at CNN. So Tucker Carlson literally there being the sober voice of reason, and this guy's trying to make him out to be a communist traitor to our country, because that's what they did in the 50s with Senator McCarthy and Roy Cohn, and that's the kind of character these pieces of shit have. There's no more disgusting person in this country than Jim Acosta. What Jim Acosta's doing is way worse than, I don't know, pick the person. Who's worse than him? O.J. Simpson only killed a couple of people. This guy's he's gonna get a lot of people killed. Right? Who's worse than this guy? Hey, Ted Bundy didn't kill as many people as CNN has gotten killed over the years doing their pro-war bullshit. And that's exactly what this is. So now anybody who's telling you the truth about Russia and Ukraine, according to Jim Acosta, is a traitor to our country and doing the bidding of Putin and Russia. So you can't have a discussion about it. You can't be anti-war. If you're anti-war, you're a traitor. Just like if they said, hey, I don't think we should invade Iraq. Oh, you're a Saddam apologist. You're a Saddam apologist. That's what they would say. Same thing with Syria. Oh, you're an Assadist. You're an Assad apologist. Same thing here. Oh, you're a Putin apologist. So if you ever go against war, the establishment news media is going to smear you immediately and call you a traitor to your own country. They did it to Tulsi Gabbard, who was currently serving in the wars that she was denouncing. They still said she was a traitor. She was currently serving in those wars. So even if you volunteer for the war that they push, you're still a traitor to our country if you don't go along with their propaganda. That's Jim Acosta and CNN. And by the way, Jim Acosta is all for Julian Assange going to trial. He's all for him being prosecuted because he was confronted about it at the museum, in the newseum which is now closed. And he said he thought Julian Assange should have to go defend himself in court. Journalists should be prosecuted. He agreed. Anyway, go ahead.
Jimmy, can I just commend Tucker Carlson for, even though he got rid of his bow tie, keeping his bow tie voice when he, well, that's a good joke. Hee hee. Like, he has like his high pitched.
Yeah, we should put Kurt up when he's speaking. That would be good. Is Kurt up? Can we put Kurt up when he's speaking? Did everyone leave? Okay, good. Everyone's back. Okay, so I wanted to show you this. Now, why is this extra ironic? Because CNN, this is according to Adam Johnson, friend of the show. Adam Johnson says CNN isn't mad Tucker is defending an authoritarian government. They're mad he's defending one who isn't a U.S. ally. Make no mistake, shit on shit media spat. Except Tucker's right about this one. That's why if Adam could be a little more, I appreciate his critique. He's a little dishonest in his critique. He's 90% right, 10% wrong, because Tucker's actually the only one in establishment media who's getting this right. So maybe, but it goes against his inner fortitude or whatever, his mental conditioning to actually give somebody props who he doesn't like, who when they're doing something right. That's what's going on there, but still good tweet. Still good tweet. In fact, so he's pointing out that CNN is in bed with a lot of authoritarian dictators like the United Arab Emirates and Saudi Arabia, which murder journalists, gay people, deny women rights, all that shit.
Not to mention all the Filipino slaves they keep. Well documented.
Really?
It's illegal to quit your job in the UAE. Even Ryan Grimm, in fact, I heard that. That's like, they have a law that you can't quit your job, so you go to prison for it.
So the interesting thing about, and by the way, in Saudi Arabia committing a genocide in Yemen, and the interesting thing is, why is CNN doing public relations for a Middle Eastern dictatorship? The cable news giant is an official broadcaster of an upcoming UAE state-run 6-month expo that is seemingly meant to burnish its global image. What? Hang on. Let's watch this. Well, this is from Adam Johnson. He says CNN has a travel vertical called Dubai Now that focus exclusively on how wonderful, fun, progressive, tolerant, and innovative the Gulf dictatorship of the United Arab Emirates is. And the outlet won't say if the articles are paid PR for the Emirati regime. Puff pieces for UAE are not exclusively under the Dubai Now vertical, but most are. And a review of CNN's UAE travel coverage over the past 10 months would lead any reasonable observer to conclude CNN is running public relations for the UAE. And then he lists these are all news segments that CNN did for the UAE. Right? Look up, there's a lot of them. There's a lot of them. And let's just take a closer look at some of them. Dubai artist sets her work on fire. Influencer regenerates coral life as Dubai's heart of empire. These futuristic pods couldn't help cities solve their traffic problems. The rapid rise of gaming in the Middle East. Where to find some cool travel escapes in the blazing hot summer. Dubai galleries are turning their artworks into NFTs. Plunge into the world's deepest diving pool. These are all stories that the CNN is doing, and they're being paid to do them, and they're not telling you. And it's all PR for a dictatorship. The center in Dubai is growing future-proof food in the desert. The Dubai-based company wants to revolutionize how ports operate. Dubai is building an art collection without buying art. Inside Dubai's first institutional art collection, Dubai's luxury mega project, Heart of Europe, is creating a huge coral reef. So this is the kind of stories that they're doing. And we've covered this before, actually, almost 2 years ago. 5 years of social reform driven by Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman have drastically loosened the conservative grip on Saudi society. CNN's Nick Robertson says it could yet prove to be a magnet for tour. So they're doing puff pieces for Saudi Arabia. This is what they're doing. They have women sitting out. Look at how modern they are. Look at it. It says
Dubai has Kardashian hair.
Look what the subheadline is. Saudi Arabia has changed beyond recognition, but will tourists want 5 years of social reform driven by crowd? Blah, blah, blah. There you go. So here it is. Look at that picture.
Whoa. I bet they drove their own cars there and everything.
Until recently, they would have needed to cover their heads and be accompanied by a man, but now they don't. Look. Saudi Arabia is very progressive.
More fun. Look at the more fun.
More fun.
See a little heading?
Look at this. Saudi Arabia and MBS. So that's the head of the Saudi Arabia reforms and tourism. This is by Nick Robertson. Reforms and tourism. Would you like to visit? Reform, and he put a heart around it. Look at that.
Didn't they lose their minds when Trump said we weren't going to do anything about them murdering Jamal Khashoggi?
Yes.
And they're like, how could he say that? And they're literally like, why don't you have a visit?
Why don't you come have a visit? And so here's the guy who wrote this article. It's this guy. First of all, he looks like a great reporter.
Yeah, I'm doing reporting. Look at this.
It looks like
hello, Saudi Arabia. What a scoop!
He looks like a commercial actor giving you a different look. Look, that can be on the phone. Here's me wearing a hat. Here's me in a bow tie. Can you please hire me to do your commercial? That's what that looks like. So he is a CNN international diplomatic editor, that guy. Wow, that's quite a title. But guess what? The author of this article, Nick Robertson, was listed as a recipient of Saudi government-funded advocacy material per the FARA disclosure. So they found out that he's in bed with the Saudi Arabians, and he's writing these puff pieces. The U.S. is complicit in Saudi atrocities in Yemen. Look at that. Did you know that? Maybe they should, but CNN not writing those articles, are they? Here's another one. 10 ways that Saudi Arabia violates human rights. But think about this, though. Think about this. I love them. CNN loves them. Yeah. So there's more. Wait, torture in police custody is common. You can be detained and arrested with no good reason. Religious discrimination is normalized in Saudi Arabia. Migrant workers have been deported en masse. Human rights organizations are banned.
Wait, what about Saudi Arabia? That's us, I get it, but where's the Saudi Arabia?
No, this is Saudi Arabia, Kurt, you smartass. Torture is used as a punishment. Executions are on the increase. No free speech, no protests. Women are widely discriminated against. So that's the great Saudi Arabia. Hey, want to go for a visit? That's CNN will tell you, hey, look, CNN was like, hey, don't you think we should go for a visit?
Fun.
And do you remember the congressman that Jim Acosta quoted? He showed his tweet about how horrible Tucker Carlson is. Well, here he is. Congressman ethics investigators find substantial reasons to believe Democratic Rep. Tom Malinowski violated federal conflict of interest rules. Right? What did he do? Well, in March, he had failed to report dozens of stock trades, and the ethics committee voted 5-1 to refer. So there you go. Dozens he didn't report. So that's the good guy that Jim Acosta is quoting to try to smear Tucker Carlson, while Jim Acosta pushes war at the behest of the funders, the military-industrial complex funders of CNN. So
he was using it to smear the idiot citizens in that guy's district that don't want a war with Ukraine. Actually,
that's right. That's right. So now you know the rest of the story, and now you know why CNN is garbage. And even people who do good work have a hard time pointing out when other people like Tucker Carlson, even though you might find most of his views odious, he's standing up against war and always has, and he's telling the truth about it, which you're never going to get in establishment news, whether it's the New York Times, the Washington Post, MSNBC, CNN. You're never going to get the truth about war. Why Tucker Carlson is allowed to tell the truth about war on Fox, I don't know, but that's the story. That's the real story. Hey, Tucker Carlson is outdoing everybody on Russia-Ukraine coverage like he outdid everybody on Iran and Syria and Venezuela. Why is that? Why is it the establishment news is incapable of telling the truth about foreign policy, but Tucker Carlson is allowed to? I have an idea. Because Tucker Carlson doesn't get many advertisers on his show. And so he's not beholden to them. But all the other networks are funded by Wall Street and the military-industrial complex. And that's why they are mouthpieces for the people who fund them. So Tucker's funding has been so cut away. How does Tucker survive? How do they pay? Well, because the cable companies have to pay, because Tucker gets such high ratings, the cable companies have to pay Fox News to carry Tucker Carlson, and that's how they make their money. So now you know the rest of the story, and now you know, again, why Jim Acosta is a garbage human being, and CNN is a propaganda outlet and nothing else. And so because even when Tucker Carlson is telling the truth, they make him out to be a traitor to our country and a red bait him like a slime ball that they are. Hey, we're doing live stand-up shows in Los Angeles, February 5th, February 12th, February 18th, February 20th, we're in Philadelphia, and then February 26th, back here in Los Angeles in Studio City at our 60-seat theater. Go to jimmydorecomedy.com for a link for all tickets, and while you're there, become a premium member, get access to all our premium content.